I have for you. Thank you.
The main focus that I attended was the stewardship. And there's a new program this year within the Synod called Ventures and Growing Stewards. And it's a year-round stewardship campaign, so it isn't just one Sunday in the fall where you sign a pledge card. It is something that, like I say, it's year-round. And what we discovered there was that there are several motivations for stewardship. And I don't know where you fall, but you can think about it. First is dedication. There's about 40% of the people that have that commitment and are dedicated to stewardship. There's compassion. I think with the examples of our bathroom kits, we definitely have compassion within our churches. About 23% of the people give to stewardship because of compassion. There's 16% give because it's a community. And maybe as we're looking at our church going forward, we're looking at more community. 11% just give because it's a challenge. You get challenged, okay. How much can you give? Do you give 10%? Do you give 5%? Do you just give whatever you've got in your wallet? And then there's responsibility. And about 9% of people give because of responsibility. But all 5 of those motivations are important. When you think about it, they all make up why we give. But usually, most people give because of one reason. So either you're motivated to give, or you have compassion for other people, whatever. So this coming year, we're hoping to be one of the congregations that will be part of the Synod program. It's, like you said, it's called Ventures and Growing Stewards, and it will be a year-long commitment. I'm hoping to find at least 5 or 6 people that would be willing to be a part of this, because it is going to be commitment. We will have several Saturday sessions, I believe, that will be like 4 or 6 hours, and they will be throughout the Synod. It's led by Karen, who works part-time in the Synod office, and then Pastor Eric Jelnick, who's one of the people in the Synod office, one of the assistants to the bishop. The other session I attended with Vicki, which was on spirituality, and she started saying, you know, that they broke their council meetings into 3 parts. The first part was Bible study. So they spent like a half hour on Bible study. They spent a half hour on business. And then the final half hour was on visioning. And the church that has been doing this, he said that very rarely do they go over that time allotment. He said you'd be surprised. Once you get your priorities in place, that business part only takes about a half hour. I think they also had different committees though. So like you have your deacons, they work outside of the council. They just come to the council with ideas, or your trustees or whatever. And then the third session I attended was a little bit disappointing because it wasn't presented the way we thought it was going to be. The third was on the call process and the challenges of the call process. Unfortunately, it was directed more toward pastors and pastors waiting for a call than it was for congregations who are in transition and wanting to know more about the call process. So I was a little bit disappointed with that one because, like I say, it didn't focus on the congregation as much as it did on pastors waiting for a call. The morning was spent in worship and some different ideas of how we can become more spiritual. I guess we did a maze that we thought and prayed over. But when you hear, I don't know what, the ELCA church in Mount Horeb maybe holds 500. Margot, what would you say about that? And it was pretty full. So when you hear 500 people singing together and praying together, it was pretty remarkable. So anytime you get a chance to go to a L.E.A.D or anything like that, take advantage of it because it's really worth going to.
Thanks for that clapping. I think we owe the 5 that went, Michelle, Vicki, Chelsea, Dawn Dorn, and Eric Strail. So thank you very much for taking your Saturday and going. I do have one verbiage correction I'd like to make to Michelle's report. You said you were hoping to find people. We will be finding by the 5 or whatever you need. We will be. Okay. In a few minutes, I'm going to be giving you all the opportunity to talk amongst yourself and start thinking outside the box, just how these L.E.A.D people have been reporting back to you here. There's a lot of things that we can do, and there's goals that we need to set as people of our new congregational unit. And if we get those goals in our heads, in front of us, when the call process starts, that new pastor is going to know where we as a congregation stand. We as a congregation are going to know where we stand. What is important to us? What could be put on hold? What should we take off and do? So I invite you, there was a handout given to you that was in color. I invite you to take that out. It's going to give you a place to put notes from today's session. And I hope that you use that as we go along here in this next few minutes. There's also black and white. You will need that in just a few minutes. So if you want to get both of them out. Before we break into our groups, I think there's 3 things that we need to talk about, bring to your attention, so they're front and center before we start our discussion. The first is that there cannot be any complacency. That's a big word. Does anybody want to give a shot on what complacency means to them? Anybody? Bev says he don't care. That's about it. I'm not good at putting words to definitions, so I looked it up in the dictionary. The dictionary says, a feeling of being satisfied with how things are and not wanting to try to make them better. Self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. The feeling of complacency cannot be with our new group. We need to just not even think about it as a word. So the first little icon in your handout has the word complacency and a slash through it. Have you ever heard the phrase, we've never done it that way? That's not how we do it. That's complacency, okay? So as you meet in your groups this morning, try to think outside the box. Someone else died. I bet most of you at one time or another have heard this little obituary, but I think it fits very good for what we are going to be talking about this morning, and I felt it worthy of putting it on the back of your program so you take it home with you. I know that all of you are saddened to learn this week of the death of one of our church's most valuable members, someone else. Someone's passing created a vacancy that will be difficult to fill. Else has been with us for many years, and for every one of those years, someone did far more than the normal person's share at work. Whenever leadership was mentioned, this wonderful person was looked to for inspiration as well as results. Someone else can work through that group. Whenever there was a job to do, a class to teach, or a meeting to attend, one name was on everyone's lips. Let someone else do it. It was common knowledge that someone else was amongst the largest givers of the church. Whenever there was a financial need, everyone just assumed someone else would make up the difference. Someone else was a wonderful person, sometimes appearing superhuman, but a person can only do so much. Were the truth known, everyone expected too much of someone else. Now, someone else is gone. No wonder we wonder what we're going to do. Someone else left a wonderful example to follow, but who's going to follow it? Who's going to do those things someone else did? Remember, we can't depend on someone else anymore. The author is unknown. So as we move into this next phase of our congregational life together, we need to remember that someone else has died, and some of us got to pick up the difference, like everybody. Thirdly, do you know what color you get when you mix red and blue? Purple. Do you know the significance of purple in the Bible? Do you? Exactly right. Thank you. It means royalty. And the reason it meant royalty is because the ingredients used to make that color were very expensive. So only the very rich and royal people were able to afford purple. If Blanchardville is red and Hollandale is blue, what happens when we come together? We make purple. And you know what? When we were baptized, every one of us is now a child of God. God is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the King of the universe. So what does that make us as His children? We are all royalty, right? We're royal. We've got the red and blue going together to purple. You see the theme starting to happen here? Last fall, when it came time to make lefts up here at Hollandale, there were some of us that just invited ourselves and came up and made lefts up. And likewise, then some of the Hollandale people came down and helped us, and it was wonderful. We really, really appreciated the help. There was purpling going on already then, and we didn't even know it. So it's coming, people. It's coming, and it's a very, very good thing.